Okay, we are live. I think this is working. Okay, took me a couple minutes to get on today, but we figured it out. So, welcome. It's Saturday morning. So good to see you. So, I think it was about 3 weeks ago, we were talking about 8 ways to beat procrastination. And a lot of you have shared with me that there's things that you want to get done, and somehow you procrastinate, you don't do it. So, about 3 weeks ago, we started this 8 solutions to beat procrastination, and we spent an entire hour on just fear alone. So, um, oh, good. People are getting on here. Let me check one thing. Shows me I'm live. Okay. Okay, it's working. Yeah, slow start this morning. So fear is a big one. And if you guys missed that one, please go back and watch the part 1 to this. I think you're going to get a lot out of it because I do feel like fear is the number one thing that stops us. We call it procrastination. Sometimes we say we're lazy, but the truth is, if you peel back the layers, there's something that you're scared to do, usually because of something that you're telling yourself, some outcome that you think is going to happen. So let's dive into these other ones. I see a lot of people joining us on Facebook in my private Facebook group, Purpose Driven Christians, as well as I'm live on Instagram and YouTube. So if you guys have questions, you want to ask me questions, you can do that either in the Purpose Driven Christians Facebook group or on YouTube. All right. So, number 2, why are you procrastinating? Here, I think, is the second reason you guys may be procrastinating. It's due to uncertainty. What are you uncertain about? There's some things that you may go, I don't know what to do. How many of you, raise your hand? How many of you are guilty of, like, I want to do this thing, I have this goal, but you don't know where to start, or you get stuck on one little thing? Like, I used to get stuck on um, technical things. I used to allow things that were technical to stop me, like, oh, but I don't know the technology. I don't know how to use the computer. Da, 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 da. I see Danny saying, I used to procrastinate a lot. And what was your solution to it? So the technical thing was it for me. I just had somebody contact me yesterday that I've been mentoring, a poet, saying, I want to put my books up on Amazon. Have you ever done it? I said several times. But there was the first time I did it where it was all uncertain. So uncertainty, you don't know, you have lack of clarity. There could also be um, absence of structure, like you're not quite sure how it all fits together. So what are your goals? How are you going to get to them if you're uncertain about it? Okay. So for instance, I have to write, I had to write the sales page for my You Are Worthy course, explaining what it is, telling people all the benefits, what they're going to get out of it. But I understood I need to do that, but I didn't know how a sales page actually worked. I didn't know the difference between a landing page and a sales page. And what do you put on whether versus the other? So, so when it comes to uncertainty, sometimes we can let that stop us. So in order to get the task done that you need to do, you have to know what it looks like. Like, I had to know what's the difference between a landing page and a sales page. So when you're putting things on your to-do list, sometimes you'll go, today I got to write the sales page, but you don't give yourself the amount of time you need. Like, you think it will take just a small amount of time, and you're avoiding it because you're uncertain, you're unclear how long it's actually going to take, because you haven't even freed up enough time to do the research on what does this all entail? What is it for you guys? What are you thinking about? What is on your to-do list that you've been procrastinating against? Was it fear, like we talked about a couple weeks, or is it uncertainty, like we're doing now? We're talking about when you don't know what to do. When you don't know what to do, you avoid it. Like, I have so many things on my to-do list that if I come up against something that I don't know how to do, I just move on to the next thing. I'm like, well, okay, I don't know how to do that right now, so I'm going to move on to the next thing. And that's how I can have things on my to-do list for 2 years. It's sad to say. But I have. So when do you get a sliver of free time and then you're uncertain about it? You just do the thing you are certain about. So factor in time to research. You're going to have to go through a phase that you research what you're doing. Sometimes you can't just do it. You got to learn how to do the thing. You've got to see examples before you can actually move ahead. Hello, everyone who's just joining us now. So we're talking about the eight ways to beat procrastination, and there's more than 8 ways. Right now, I have 8 things that are stopping us. Last time we talked about fear. Right now, we're talking about uncertainty. So maybe you need to schedule a day or two to look at examples. If you're building something and doing something you've never done before, it's frustrating. It's slow. You feel like you're going, like you feel like you're just doing so much, but you're not getting any results. That's the whole growth period, right? When you see a plant, it has to grow. Is it gravitraffic? Grows down through gravity first before it can grow phototraffic up through where we actually see the plant. Well, some of us are in seasons right now where we're growing underground and it's dark and it feels like nothing is moving and nothing is happening because we're in that growth stage where we have to get our stability first before we can go up. So set a day or two to look at examples. How is this done? How do I do this? But here's the caveat. Some of you guys, and I've been guilty of this, can get stuck in the research phase. And this can cause its own kind of procrastination because you're trying to get it perfect. You're trying to get it just right. So we're not going to try to do that. We're going to skip away at the perfection thing right now. That's actually one of the things on the 8 ways to beat procrastination list that we're going to talk about later. So what else is tied into uncertainty? Sometimes we procrastinate because we don't know where to start. Do you know where to start with that thing that you're wanting to do and accomplish? So it's not just knowing how to do the thing because there may be some other steps involved. What's the best place to start? Sometimes even thinking about that can paralyze you. So I was talking to my coach a couple weeks ago and I was saying, hey, I wanted to do this thing and I kept hitting roadblocks and things kept getting in the way. And I tried really hard to sign up for this thing and it wasn't getting approved. And she was like, well, maybe you're skipping some steps. And it didn't really occur to me. I just thought, oh, I'm being blocked. This isn't working. Da da da. And she says, maybe you're skipping some steps. Maybe that would be like step, 4 or 5 for you. And I was like, you know what? She could be right. After thinking about that, sometimes we're getting blocked, right? Okay, we've got someone in the Facebook group saying, yes, just take action and continue. The Bible says continue in the things, believing and receiving. Yes, but if you're uncertain of where to start, yes, do the things that you do know how to do. But then if you come up against a roadblock, you got to figure out, okay, what's causing this, right? What is stopping me right now? So I'm going to give you some possible solutions to get you past this uncertainty phase, which may be what has you procrastinating from taking action. Okay, get a mentor or a coach. Find someone who has gone before you and done the thing you want to do and ask them to mentor you. I've got someone mentoring me on my pages I'm creating. I've got a life coach. I've got coaching that I've done for, I've been working with for last year, I've been working with a coach for my speaking and coaching. And I've done another program on how to do books and make them bestseller. The point is, you get coaches, right? All people who are up to big things usually have coaches, right? Actors have acting coaches, they have voice coaches, they've got someone in the Facebook group says, that's why we've got you, Katherine. So you get a coach, you get a mentor, you get someone who's gone before you and done that. I've heard of high performance, like big level CEOs that have stretching coaches. I thought that is so bizarre, but I remember hearing a talk once on productivity and they were talking about how these big time CEOs have stretching coaches because they found that when their body is loose and stretched out and nothing is tight, that they can think more clearly and they can get things done, which I thought was absolutely amazing. Um Someone is saying in the Facebook group, Katherine, you know what? There was some person who I was a friend with. She left me, but I feel God created more avenues for me. It took time, but God created new paths. That's the thing. When somebody leaves or a door shuts, it's for a reason. And sometimes you've heard the saying that sometimes people are in your life for a reason. Sometimes they're there for a season, or sometimes they're for a lifetime. So we don't know. When people leave, let me just tell you this much. Don't go chasing them down. If somebody leaves, that's too bad for them, right? Now, obviously, there's times when you're in a partnership or marriage and you need to work some things out. But for the most part, when it comes to friends and different people, if they don't recognize your value or see who you are, it's okay to just, it's sad and you sometimes grieve that relationship. That's happened to me a few times. There's been a couple people who've I'm not friends with anymore. Some their choice, some my choice. And we just move on, right? God will open up other doors. Nicola, thank you so much for the super sticker. I appreciate you. So I know somebody's saying, they're not worth it. They're worth it to God, but sometimes they can be detrimental to our life. I would never say somebody isn't worth it, but they may not be the best relationship for us to have. You want to be around people who will support you and lift you up and help you find reasons that it's going to work out. Not be around people. You want some orange juice? Timmy, can you pour Eli some orange? Go ask your brother because I'm on my live stream right now, okay? So be around people who are going to encourage you and lift you up and help you find the solutions to do the thing you want to do, not the people who are going to tell you, you can't do it. It's not possible, right? So sometimes what you need to help with the procrastination is accountability partners. Oh no, that didn't. So the Facebook user, if you guys in my private Facebook group, put your name in when you write a message to me, put your name in so I can see who you are. For some reason, it just says Facebook user, so I don't know who's talking. So put your name in with your comment, then I can address you by your name. So who needs an accountability partner? Do you guys know what an accountability partner is? That's someone you can you're texting them or you're calling them each day, somebody that you go to the gym with, somebody that you tell your goals to. When you have that, you are so much more likely to get stuff done. Oh, it's Anandit. Hi. Welcome. So you're so much more likely to get things done because you're accountable to someone. If you don't tell anyone what your goal is, then when you decide, I don't feel like it, you've got no one to hold you accountable, right? You've got no one to say, hey, Nana, you said you were going to work on your book today. Did you? You got no one to say that to you. So you have to get some people. So a couple of years ago, I had an accountability group with a couple of gals, and we were all writing books at the same time. We went to a course, we went to a workshop on how to write a best-selling book, and we would text each other Monday through Friday, 4 things. Monday through Friday, we would text each other. Did you take your vitamins? Did you move your body? Did you get your exercise today? Did you spend time with God today? And did you work on your book today? Just those 4 things. And we would check in with each other every day. And let me tell you, that was great accountability because one gal in the group was super great at exercising. She was like, she would exercise no matter what. I was the person who would work on my goals no matter what. And then she would be like, she would spur me on to exercise and I would spur her on to work on her book. Right. So I remember at the end of the night sometimes being so tired, but I knew we were going to have to check in via the text message with the girls. So I'd force myself, even if it was 9 at night, I'm just laying on the couch watching TV because I'm spent. I'd get out my little mini trampoline and I would just jump on my trampoline for 10 or 15 minutes so I could text and say, yep, got my exercise in today. Yay, fireworks. Someone's giving me fireworks. So what is it for you? Do you need to get an accountability partner? Would that help you with getting things done that you've been procrastinating on? Okay, so there was a study that was conducted by the American Society of Training and Development, and it found that people who commit to their goals with another person are 65 more likely to achieve them. So just by telling someone, hey, I'm going to do this thing, I'm going to commit to doing this goal this year, whether it's stop smoking, lose 5 pounds, pay off my debt, whatever it is, they're 65% more likely to achieve them. But that statistic jumps to 95% likelihood of success if you commit to regular accountability meetings to check in on the progress. You know what? That's true, because all 3 of us in my accountability group finished our books. Okay? So could having an accountability partner be helpful to you? Do you think not having one could be one of the things that is stopping you from reaching your goals? So who is it? Just think in your mind right now, who can I reach out to? Who can I say? And you guys don't have to have the same goals. One of you could be, I have this goal to learn how to play the trombone. The other one could be, I have a goal to run a marathon. But you're checking in on each other. Did you get your miles in today? Did you prep for the marathon? Did you practice for at least an hour with your sheet music? What is it for you? Okay. So you don't have to have the same goal. So don't think that, but you have that accountability to each other because you love each other, right? And you care about each other and you want to see the other person succeed. So I have some clients whose main purpose for hiring me wasn't for me to help them solve their problems. It was, or sometimes I'm hired to help them get through some transition in life or process certain emotions. Some just, some just want to check in with me for accountability. I have people who they just like, I just need you to tell me, do this thing. I just want you to check in with me at the end of the night to make sure I've done this by the afternoon or whatever. And I did this with some high level movers and shakers. They're like the head people, so they've got nobody to be accountable to. And they wanted, some like a touch point with someone that they know they have to at the end of the day do this, and sometimes they would want me to give them an unpleasant task they had to do, that if they didn't get that thing done, this is what you have to do now instead. And I remember coming up with some pretty wild things. For one of the guys that I was mentoring and doing his coaching and accountability, he was supposed to do these certain things and he had to get things done. And so like for instance, getting his apartment rented out by a certain time for his second place. I said, if you don't get that done by the end of the week, you're going to have to donate $500 to the political party you don't like. Let me tell you, when you tell somebody to do something like that, they get that thing done. They have no more excuses, because he would have been accountable to send $500 to the opposite political party that he votes for. So sometimes this is not the case for me. I don't need this kind of motivation, but some people need that kind of motivation. And you may need to tell your friend, hey, if I don't do this by blah blah blah, then I'm going to have to do 100 push-ups, or I'm going to have to donate money to this cause I do not like, or whatever it is. That will really light a fire under you to do something. I know that's an extreme one, but what's it going to take? Some people like the kind of coaches that yell at them and bark at them. That's not really me. I can get firm and I can say some things that make you uncomfortable, because that's part of growth, right? When you're stretching a muscle at the gym, when you're growing it, you have to rip it and tear it in order for it to heal and get better. And there's been some things where I've come across a little harsh, but then they've thanked me later. So do your research on your goal that you're trying to reach and you're trying to solve. So if you don't have access to a coach, or, and, maybe you're getting an accountability partner, but I want you to buy some books on the topic. What's the topic that you're trying to do? Buy some books on it, learn on it, take a course. Yeah, you can find some answers on YouTube or DuckDuckGo or Google, different search engines. But sometimes there comes a point, like when you're stuck and you lack clarity and you don't know what to do, where watching 50 different videos from 50 different YouTubers they're just going to get you confused, right? They all have different advice on what you should do and who you should follow. So For example, I watched this funny reel the other day, and its caption said something like trying to eat healthy in 2024. And this guy goes to make some eggs, but then he pulls up a video from some health expert saying why eggs are terrible for you. And he throws it out. Then he grabs his steel cut oatmeal and he's making his oatmeal, is about to eat. And then some doctor or health expert he finds on Instagram says, oh, this is why oatmeal is so bad for you. And then he throws it out and he decides to make some toast. Then he pulls up a video from Dr. Gundry. That's that like lecting guy. He says, bread is bad for you. So he gets rid of that. Last thing, he pulls out some apples and some berries. He's so hungry. He takes a bite of the apple and then he pulls up some video from some health expert. He says, why you should never eat fruit. And he spits the apple out of his mouth and pours it a glass of water. Like, point is, someone is always going to tell you the opposite thing, right? So, okay, someone in my Facebook group said, that's what I like about you. You don't yell, but you're still being firm and serious. You have to be invested in winning. You have to be invested in succeeding. And so let's do that for each other. Let's be accountable. Are there people that are on here each week that you see that you could send them an inbox message saying, hey, would you like to be my accountability partner? So trying to take advice from multiple different people at once is so difficult. So my advice is to find one person that you resonate with, one person that you can learn from, and read their books, take their courses, get all you can from them at that level. If you move past that and you're ready for the next thing, they don't have the next thing, then okay, find the next person that's doing the other thing you want, right? Like I've studied with certain people on how to do live conferences. Well, maybe I now want to do virtual conferences. And the person I've been studying with doesn't teach how to do virtual ones. Maybe I need to find a different mentor or coach for that specific thing, right? My focus here, as you guys who've been following me a while, know that my focus is to help unblock you from all the things that are stopping you from success. And a big one of that is worthiness, right? That's why we have the book. You Are Worthy, right? I wrote this book so you could stop building everyone else's dreams and sabotaging your own. So you can step into your dreams, your calling with, confidence and courage and all that. So we're going to not be doing everything for everybody else. And we're going to start doing some things for our goals and dreams. Because when we die one day and we get to heaven, when God says, what did you do with, I asked you to do these things. We're not going to be like, well, I was busy helping everyone else with theirs. He's going to be like, but I gave you these dreams and goals. So get the accountability you need. The reason courses are great is because usually they've laid them out in such a way that it's all the steps you need for that particular phase. It's not, rather than 20 random videos on the topic that are all over the place that may be teaching opposite things, right? So get to the next phase, figure out what to do next, and only then move on to the next person or coach, right? All right. So there's too much confusion, too many different opinions. That's what was happening for me when I was trying to build that landing page that I told you about, right? Okay, I've got somebody on YouTube asking, Katherine, are you certified in life coaching? I'm not sure if I'd be comfortable hiring if they weren't. I'm not certified. So if you're not comfortable hiring someone who is not certified, who's been through a program, then I'm not your gal. Nope. I've been coaching for 4 or 5 years now, but I've never taken an official program. So some people think having a degree or a certificate matters. And so if that's you, there's a lot of other people out there who've done those things. I could refer you to my coach if you're looking. She's got all kinds of certifications. Okay. So I personally don't think you need that to help people, but some people do. So you got to go with what you feel comfortable with. That's what it's really. So, and you guys, if you're doing something, if you feel like strongly called to get some kind of degree or certification, do it. If that's going to make you feel better, if that's going to give you more confidence, then go for that, because you'll never feel comfortable trying to do the thing if you feel like, oh, what I'm doing doesn't count unless I have these things. So if that's you, then do that. If you don't think you need it, then don't do it. God's going to send the right people across your path who you can help, right? Okay. All right, I'm looking at some of your comments. All righty. So you don't want to be studying with multiple different people, because sometimes it can be confusing. So remember I told you I was trying to do my landing pages? Well, I was studying with 4 different people, and I was getting confused because it was contradictory info, right? I didn't know which would work better. One was saying only have the opt-in on the first page. The other was saying no, don't have an opt-in until the second page. And the other was saying, well, you have to have mini wins along the way. One was saying ask for this certain information. Other was saying don't ask for that till you get to this page. One was saying the lead magnet must be. It was just all these different things. Get the enroll now page and do this and download your free gift on that page. That way, if they say no, a third email comes and then they wait 72 hours to get this teaching. It was all like, whoa, this is too much. And then I just stopped. I just didn't do it. So that's the whole clarity. Get clear, get an accountability partner. Okay, the third reason I believe people procrastinate is they are overwhelmed. They're overwhelmed. Who here has ever been overwhelmed? Angela, thank you so much for the super sticker. Are you overwhelmed? If you've got too much on your plate and you're too overcommitted. Anand, says, I'm unable to send messages on YouTube. That's okay. You're in my Facebook group. You can send the messages there. Okay, so if you're overcommitted, you are overwhelmed, you've got too much on your plate. When this happens, there's several phases I go through to get this back under control. There's short-term things you can do, and there's long-term things you can do. Nicholas says, I struggle with prioritizing and saying no. That is going to be discussed here in this number 3, being overwhelmed. Okay, so when you're overwhelmed, there's a few phases that we go through. Thanks, Deanna. Good to have you on here. There's several phases we go through, short-term and long-term, that can help you stop procrastinating. Now, when you're a high achiever, which I think a lot of you on here are, if you're on here, you're a high achiever. You've got big goals, big dreams. You're up to big things. You know that you're meant for something more in your life, or you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be here right now wanting to learn and wanting to better yourself. So I know those of you who are here are high achievers with big goals and big dreams. And when we do that, right? When we do that, we take on sometimes more than we should. We've got big goals and dreams, and we take on too much. We aim for these high levels, and these high levels often require more work. They require work you have never done before. Let's see. Okay. They require things you haven't done before. You're stepping out of your comfort zone. You're doing tasks you've never done, because you're going for goals you've never achieved before. So when you're doing new things, that's going to take up a lot of new mental space. It will expand your emotional capacity. It's going to expand your spirituality, your spiritual capacity as well, because you're going to need more of God. You're just going to be praying so much more, like, God, how do I do this? Sometimes we get discouraged when it's so confusing, so much overwhelming, so much at once. For example, those of you who know that I'm an actor, I've been acting for most of my adult life. So in some ways you can say, because I've been doing it over 20 years, I've kind of got that down, right? I'm competent enough as an actor to have a regular job that I do each week as an actor. But when I started to move into the personal development space, in teaching, like I'm doing now, in designing courses, in coaching, I had to learn new things, right? The tasks were different. There were things that I had to do that I've never done before. It went from doing the same thing all the time, preparing for acting roles and I knew how to do that. I knew how to reach the casting directors and how to get auditions and things like that. But then when I started, preparing for designing a course, I had to figure out how to get it edited. I had to find an online platform to host the course. I had to learn all the technicalities, like, how do I put this up? And as I was learning these new things, I would start to get a little emotional, right? I would be like, because it would hit when you are going for new and bigger things, it starts to hit your trigger points. Like, oh, I had this thing about technology and now I'm having to figure out how to do these pages and this technical stuff. And I started to get a little freaked out. So when you're, you know, running your own business, you have to do all the jobs and you can allow yourself to get overwhelmed. So especially if you don't have workers or assistants that you can, give them some of the workload, you're going to have to learn how to do it. And that's when the emotions can ramp up and you can have thoughts like, maybe this is too hard for me. Maybe I'm not cut out for that. Right. So don't let that happen to you. Just realize that is part of the learning curve, right? As you're learning, just realize, give yourself some grace, give yourself some extra time. You're tackling goals that you've never tackled before. You're doing things you've never done before. So when it seems the most challenging, one thing that helps is to remember when you're doing something that's hard and you're like, can I do this? One thing that I feel like really helps is to remember something that you have conquered that used to be difficult for you, but you're now competent in. What is it that when you initially thought, oh, there's no way I'm ever going to be able to do this, and now you're doing it competently with ease? Remember that. So then you go, oh, but remember that one thing I thought was too hard for me? And then I did it. I'm just thinking right now when I was in gymnastics, I didn't think I'd ever be able to do a back walkover on a balance beam. And then one day, after months of practice, I was doing back walkovers on the balance beam. So, what is it for you that you need to remember? Um, Mastering driving a car. Oh my goodness. Remember how nerve-wracking that was when you were a teenager and you started out and there was so many steps. Hold on a second. I'm gonna let the dog out of my room. He's pacing back and forth. When you learn to drive, you like, oh, I got to do the seatbelt, and then I got to adjust the rearview mirror, and I gotta look around and make sure the side mirrors are balanced right, and look behind me, and when do I put my foot on the gas, when do I put it on the brake, who's got the right of way at the stoplights, and you're looking around trying to check everything, and am I going the right speed limit, and all the things. And now you drive like it's no problem, right? You drive like you could do it almost in your sleep. You just on autopilot, right? So you see how many steps that took to learn how to drive and when to signal and when to, how to change lanes safely. So whatever it is that you're doing now that you're stepping into that seems hard, like WWE Gamer says, how do I fulfill my dreams? You're going to have to do it one step at a time. You're going to have to, figure out how to get over the procrastination. You're going to have to make a list of all the things you need to get done. You're going to have to do some research. You're going to have to read some books on the topic. You're going to have to look at some YouTube videos, buy some courses, whatever it is. But most of our problem is a mental game. It's not even usually about the tasks. It's what we're telling ourselves about the tasks. Because you can go, Katherine, why haven't you perfected your landing pages yet? It's been over a year. It's been a mental game more than it's been like, I got to click the right buttons, right? So, what is it for you that you have said to yourself, this is too hard. I don't know if I can do this. Maybe I'm not meant for this, or I got some negative feedback. That's just all part of the game. That's just all part of what we're going to do in life. Do you know that a lot of people aren't going to like you? And it's okay. It's okay if not everybody loves you. Okay. um I was getting distracted by the comments, sorry. Because I'm looking for questions. And hello. So what is it for you that you know is stretching you? It's beyond your growth. So when you come up against something, because I hear a lot of people, they go, well, but I can't because of this. And usually when you peel back the layers, it's not the excuse that they're making. There's something underneath that excuse, and there's something underneath that excuse. Like they say, well, I don't have the money. But if you had the money, what would you do? Well, I would do this, this, and this. Great. Then maybe that was it. But if sometimes then they get the thing they've been asking for, and they have another excuse and another excuse and another excuse. So, what if you had that? What would you do? And they would tell you, what if you had that? And then they have another excuse. Well, what if you had that taken care of? And then they have another excuse. So sometimes the excuses aren't even what's stopping you. It's some underlying fear or anxiety or something you're telling yourself about that situation. So, growth, we have to be stretched beyond our current capacity. We have to build up our strength and endurance and what we feel we're capable of. And we have to blow our own mind. We have to go beyond what we think we can do. And that's why it helps to have mentors, and it helps to read the Bible, because when you see what God thinks you're capable of, and it's amazing. It's amazing. Speaking of, did you guys see my video last Sunday? The tribute I did to my mentor and how he helped expand my capabilities of what I thought I was capable of. The video is called How I Got Self-Confidence. It's here on YouTube. Sometimes you need that person to believe in you when you don't believe in yourself. Angela's saying, I did. WWE Gamer says, yes. Nicholas says it was beautiful and touching. Thank you guys for watching that. I just felt I was overdue to give credit to him. I've done it in other ways, but never made a full video like that. But here's the thing. The good news is you are not alone. Even if you don't have an awesome mentor like I had, even if you don't have a coach, you're never going to do things on your own, right? Oh, thank you. Facebook user says, I did. Great video. You're never alone. And don't try to do things without God's help, right? Even if you don't have someone in the flesh, a real person to help you, remember what John 15:5 says, I am the vine, you are the branches. He who abides in me and I in him bears much fruit. It says, without me, you can do nothing. So even when you don't have earthly help, you can have heavenly help, right? Spending time with God each morning before you do your tasks and thanking God for your abilities and his help and asking him what he wants you to do each day, that will make you unstoppable, right? It'll make you unstoppable. So, another part of the overwhelm is when there are times where things don't go the way we want them to do. They go awry in our business, and we have to put in long hours to finish a project or meet a deadline. But that shouldn't be the norm. Yes, there's going to be times where something like that happens. Okay, you're going to have to just go full force. But you don't want to have that kind of frenzy daily. That will just keep you overwhelmed. That's too difficult to maintain. So when you're making God your business partner, or your endeavor to reaching your goals, make sure you're doing it at a pace that you can sustain long term. Remember, this life of ours, it's a marathon. It is not a sprint. Yes, there may be times you have to sprint for a deadline, but don't let that be your normal pace. You're going to burn out. All right. So the next step, when you're doing a big push, like let's say you have a grand opening or you're doing a product launch to get something off the ground, or like I said, you have to save your business. Remember that these times of pushing beyond what you think you can do or what you're capable of, remember that's just for the short term, right? It's short term. This isn't how it will always be. Sometimes when you're in the middle of that, you're like, I just can't do this. And yes, you can't do it forever, but you can ask God for the strength you need to press short term to get through this thing. Don't throw in the towel because you think it will always be this hard or that will always be this much work. You got to find your equilibrium. You can't sustain that sprint long term. Sometimes it's needed if you're business starts to go south or you have to enlist some help, that's not a long-term play. This happened to a lot of people. Oh yeah. Brittany's saying deadlines. Yep, we're gonna get into that. That's one of the next things on the list. So when COVID happened and it shut down a lot of businesses, many businesses did not survive. That was overwhelming. There was businesses just that were brick and mortar that had to somehow overnight figure out how to be an online store when they were just an in-person store. So we have to prepare mentally. That's number one. We go to God in prayer and we prepare mentally. Remind yourself, I'm going to remind you to remind yourself of the hard things that you have done and you've conquered. And keep that in mind when you get overwhelmed. So the first step, I keep saying the first step, I'm probably like on step 20 now. No. So when you get something that some goal that you're setting out for, number one, you go to God in prayer and you ask for help. Number two, you get clear on what you need to do. This is when you make a list of every single thing. Like, these are all the things I need to do, right? Step two, get clear on what you need to do. And don't just write a list like clean kitchen, because then you're like, well, why haven't I done it? It's because there's all these other steps that you're not taking accountability for. So instead of writing down clean kitchen, if that's what's bothering you, write down, do the dishes, wipe down the countertops, clean the stove, clean inside the oven, clean the stove top, organize the Tupperware cupboard, organize the pantry by food item, sweep the floor, mop the floor. Okay, you get the idea. So you've got all the things written down. The third step is, you take your list to God and you prioritize. What on your list of your million important things you have to do is actually truly important, as in urgent, as in has a deadline? Brittany's like, deadlines. Yes. Even if you think everything's important, it's not true. Not everything is important. There's a way to narrow down and focus on what to do first. And I know sometimes this is hard because we tell ourselves everything is important, but it's not. Now, they don't all have equal importance, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So you can't do everything right now. So you're going to have to get to a place where you can do certain things. There are some urgent things, there are some important things, and there are some deadlines. There's deadlines we put on ourselves, and there's deadlines others put on us for our work or a job, example. So for instance, if we're talking about the kitchen scenario, maybe you've got guests coming over and you can't do it all before they come. If that's the case, yes, it takes time, someone in Facebook said. If that's the case, you're going to have to pick just the ones that you can do. Right? What can you do before the guests come? Well, organizing the Tupperware cupboard and the pantry isn't going to be important because those aren't seen by the guests. But, doing the floors and the countertops and getting the dirty dishes out of the sink would be priority. So when you get overwhelmed, go through the process. Sometimes I had my mentor, Tim, used to help me with this a lot. He would, help me get clear on what the priorities were. And what do I have time for? Once you've prayed, you've taken your list to God and you've asked him, like, what do I need to do? And start to go with the deadlines. Okay. Not every deadline is a true deadline. Sometimes we have self-imposed deadlines. Like, I would say, I want this book written by Easter. But then there's hard deadlines, right? Hard deadlines are ones that are immovable. I could actually move when I need to finish my book, but I can't move that the taxes are due each year, April 15th, right? Brittany, yes, the lids are always missing from the Tupperware. So if you are a business owner, your taxes are due March 15th. That's when mine are due. So I will be working on my taxes all next week. Even though I've got books I want to write, I'm not going to be able to work on my creative stuff next week because I have to work on my taxes all next week. So getting set on your priorities is the next step, right? Who have you promised things to? If you work somewhere, maybe your coworkers need stuff from you. Maybe they say, I need this by Friday, and you're overwhelmed because you've got 3 coworkers that all say they need it by Friday. What do you do then? What you do is you follow up with all the coworkers who say they need it. And you just be honest with them, like, hey, I'm really swamped right now. I've fallen behind. Is it absolutely needed? Like, will the wheels fall off the bus if I don't get it to you by Friday? Or, will next Tuesday work? You will be so surprised at how many people who told you that they needed this by Friday, this hard deadline, or the truth is they just wanted it sooner. They just wanted to have everything in place for them, and moving the date actually ends up being fine. Sometimes you'll call and you'll find out, oh, the project changed, or now we're not working on that till next quarter. You now have like a couple extra months to get it done. So this is, you can't just be sitting with all this list of things, but everybody needs this right now. Call them back, explain your situation, find out if that's really the hard date. You may call.
Daddy gave me these as a prize.
Daddy gave you a prize? Hot. Oh my goodness, that's cool. Honey, can we work on this later? Look. That's really awesome. You can show me that later. Can you close the door, honey? Mommy's doing her live stream. So you may call them and find out, they may have somebody that can help you. Like, oh, you're overwhelmed. You know what? I've got somebody on my team. They can probably help you finish that. Or somebody may say, yes, I actually do need that by next Friday. Okay, good. Now I know the one I need to work on first. Okay. You may call someone and find out, oh, yeah, you know what? We just found out by the boss a couple days ago. They just wanted to scrap that idea. They don't want to put money towards that. So I don't need it anymore. Sorry, I forgot to call you. Then you were stressing yourself out over that thing for no reason, and they didn't even need it anymore, right? So call those people up and find out if the date is really a real date. That's important. Okay, next, we're going to talk about boundaries. Well, that's one of the things. Overcommitment. You guys, please do not make promises to people so easily. You do things for people because you have to do the things you promise. If you've promised somebody, then of course you have to do it, right? Scripture says, let your yes be yes and your no be no. So if you told them yes, you got to do it, right? If you know it's going to be a hardship on you, and you're going to be losing sleep, and you're not going to be able to spend time with your family, and it's really going to put you out, before you say yes to things, you really have to count the cost. Don't just automatically say yes to people. You recovering people pleasers in here, don't be a people pleaser. Be a God pleaser. I've got a whole lesson coming out in the You Are Worthy Advanced course, and I'm writing a chapter on being a God pleaser and not a people pleaser in my follow-up book. You guys know I'm working on the follow-up book to this called So I'm Worthy, Now What? You have to know the right person to please. And it's not others, right? Acts 5:29 says we please God, not other people. So we have to stop being overcommitted. People will understand if you tell them, hey, I'm way in over my head. I am too committed right now. I would love to help, but I'm sorry. At this moment, I just can't do it at this moment. I'm committed right now to read my friend's book. My friend's book launches like in a week and a half, and I haven't read it yet and been able to give her a quote for it yet because I'm like, I was working like every single day this week, and now I have to do my taxes next week. So we get overcommitted, right? So just for those of you who don't know, your emails are not priority. You don't have to like always look at your emails unless that's your actual job and your job is to do emails, your customer service. That's a whole different thing, right? Okay. So, and your mail. I've got a stack of mail over here. Your mail doesn't have to be open every single day. It's great if you're caught up and you can do that. But most of the time, bills aren't due for 30 days. So sometimes you can buy yourself 2 weeks before you have to look at them. It can be terrible, but if you have a deadline, you got to focus on the deadline and work everything else into it. That could be a whole That could be a whole nother conversation. So when you go to prioritize, the first thing you have to ask yourself is, who have I committed to? Who did I say I would help them with a certain project? Because the Bible says, swear to your own hurt, right? At Psalm chapter 15. We have to do the thing, even if it's going to be a sacrifice for us. But if you're making too many sacrifices all the time, you really need to check in with yourself and say, why am I saying yes to every single person? Okay, so priorities with deadlines are next. You know what to do first and you know what to do second. When you're calling the people and you're getting the exact date, you write that down in your list. Okay, this is due March 5th. Okay, this is due March 10th. You know which one to work on first. That takes off a lot of pressure and anxiety. So phase 1 is prayer. Phase 2, find out get clear on what you need to do. Phase 3, find out which ones have true deadlines. Now, phase 4, you're going to go through all the rest of the goals that don't have deadlines. You're going to do the deadline ones first. Now you're going to go through all the rest of the goals on your to-do list and figure out, actually do this with the ones with deadlines too. Figure out how to break these down into daily doables. This is what I always say. Break them down into daily doables. So how can you take this big task? I guess I could use the landing page example. And how do you break it down into little bits you can do each day? Okay, I figure out there's 5 phases of things you need on the landing page. Maybe day 1, I write the script for, the first part. Day 2, I write the script for the second part. Day 3, so on. If I have less days, then maybe I'm doing two of them in one day. Maybe on the 5th day, I find all the images that need to go behind. I've picked my color schemes, things like that. How do you break it down into daily doables? So that way you can get these things off your list that have been on there for months. Because if they're feeling too big for you to handle, you're not going to do it. So how do you do it? I have these pencils in my drawer. I don't need to show you the pencil, but it's got a picture of an elephant, and it says, it's terrible saying. It says, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So not that I would ever eat an elephant or any other animal, but I thought it was a funny concept when something is so big, and you think, I can't, it's too overwhelming, it's too much. What's one little thing you can do each day? So grab that piece of paper in your notebook and you write down all the things you can think of that need to be done. You already did that on the large scope, like when you said clean the kitchen, but now breaking it down into the doables, like, okay, we've got the stovetop, we've got the dishes, we got this. And, I had to do this when I was designing my You Are Worthy course. You look at the big picture and you're like, oh, easy peasy, I can do that. But when you get down to the nuts and bolts, you realize there's more to it. Okay, I got to write the script. I got to show it to my mentor. I got to make sure the scriptures are right. How can I add more humor? Now I got to add more touching moments. Now I got to show it to my biblical consultants to make sure it's really lined up with scripture. And then now I got to get ready to film. And what outfit should I pick? And what color background? Should I shoot this on green screen or regular? I need to buy camera. I need to buy lights. I need to buy a teleprompter. I need to get sound equipment. I need to have staff to shoot it. I need the time to shoot. I got to put my kid in daycare so he's not making noise when I shoot it. I have to have a studio set up, right? The green screen. I had to feed all the people when they came to my house. I needed a director, a script supervisor, a sound person. It was beyond like, oh, I'm just going to make a course, right? I had to hire an editor. I had to select music, special effects, background colors. I had to get a logo made. I had someone on this live stream made a special song for the course. Angela, you know who you are, wrote the You Are Worthy song for the course. All these things, right? Hours looking through stock footage to see what images go with you see how everything is more than you think it will be. So breaking it down into those little steps, making descriptions for each of the videos, putting into smaller parts, ripping the audios to make the MP3s, designing the workbooks, which I still haven't done. You can see how it can go on and on and on. But once you've done all of that brain mapping, you get down to all things are possible, right? With God, all things are possible. But if you don't break it up into all these little steps and commit, are you committed to doing one thing per day on your goal? Brittany says, all that makes my heart rate go up. People make it look easy, right? people like you guys watch a video on YouTube, you're like, oh, that looked easy. They just like turn on the camera and talk, and you don't realize all the stuff that went behind doing that. So what can you schedule each day? Which item can you work on each day? Some of them need to be done in order. So once you have all the steps, are we doing them in a certain order? So you've got your prayer, you've gotten clear, you got your priorities, you break it up into daily doables. Now, the fifth step, schedule them in order of importance. You've already got the deadlines for other people, but now you've also got to schedule your projects in the right order. Yes, some things may be more obvious than others, like I couldn't edit the course until I actually filmed the course. So yeah, some things are obvious, but others aren't. You may think, I can't even start on the course until I have a logo. Truth is, you don't necessarily need a logo till the end, but if you're going to be promoting it in a pre-sale in advance, then maybe you do need the logo in advance, right? So how do you schedule things that are in order of importance to you? So I think this is even more important than the order of like, you can't do this until you do this. Okay, I'm about to get serious for a minute. Schedule things that are important to you. Ask yourself, like when I'm looking at all the things I have to do, these are goals. I'm looking at, I want to write these certain books. I want to do these certain things. What if I were to die next week? What if I were to die next month? What would be the most important thing I could leave behind? What would I want my legacy to be? If you've got 20 creative projects right now or 20 different inventions you're working on, if you were to die this year, which is the one you'd say, this is what I would be most proud of if I left it behind? I'm not saying you're going to, but what if you only had one shot? What would it be? I want you to start thinking like this, not because I want you to be depressed about how short life could possibly be, but it's easier to get clear on the things you need to do, right? Like we all know we need a life insurance policy. So our loved ones are, if you're a grown up, if you have kids, you want to not, leave them with having to pay for the funeral and get all that figured out. Maybe you want to have a will so that if something would happen to you, people know what you want to do with your stuff, right? Two of my friends that passed away in the last couple of years, they had wills. So we knew, okay, they want money to go to this charity. They didn't want their siblings to have it. That's important to know. Otherwise, the court would just say, oh, the siblings get all of it. But they specified, no, I want it to go to these charities to help these people, not to my family. Things are important for you to know, okay? So what do you want to leave behind? Are you great at crocheting? Have you come up with different ways to do some knitting? Maybe you want to video yourself doing your crocheting or your needlepoint and leave that behind for your grandkids, right? Like I mentioned, I have a lot of books left in me. Point is, we aren't promised tomorrow. What do you want to leave behind? I know this may be morbid to think about on a Saturday morning, but every day more than 100,000 people leave this earth. Did they prioritize what was important to them? Did they work on what was important to them? Did they leave behind a mess or did they leave behind a masterpiece? Is not necessarily responsible to think you're going to live another 50 years or 20 years and to keep putting off what's important to you forever, to waste your days procrastinating, which is, if you've got a memoir you want to write, you have to prioritize that over organizing your pantry and over alphabetizing your spice rack. Okay. Are you with me on this? Is there something important you want to leave behind? And, I hope we all take care of ourselves, that we exercise and we eat right, and that we will have another 50, 60, 70, 80 years. Who knows? But just in case you don't, getting your deadlines of what's important to you is important. Number 6, if you want to get more done, you must learn to delegate. See who you can get to help you, who can come over and watch the kids so you can have some time to concentrate on your work without being interrupted every 5 minutes. Anyone? Is it just me? Okay. Can you get one of your kids or your spouse to run errands for you or do housework so you can concentrate? Can you pay a few extra bucks to get your groceries delivered so you're not spending time at the store? Our local store now has a thing where you can just order online and then just pull up at the curb and they bring it out to you. That way you're not with the shopping cart going through the store doing. How can you save yourself some time and enlist some help so you have time to work on the things that are important to you? I want you all to break out of the martyrdom of having to do everything yourself. You don't have to do everything yourself. And I know some people, when you start to get help, some people may criticize you. Oh, you getting help though. You should be doing that all yourself. Now, remember, I don't know if any of you guys watched Joyce Myers, but Joyce Myers, she is like an evangelist, a preacher. She would travel all over, preaching all over the country. And some people were judging her and saying, oh, well, you should really be home to fix your kids' breakfast every morning. And Joyce Meyer said, I don't really think it matters who puts their cereal in their bowl every morning. So just know you're going to have critics. You're going to have critics and people who are criticizing you and they're unwilling to help. Well, just don't listen to them, right? Anytime someone says, oh, you should be doing such and such, you know what you can say to them? Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe I should be doing that. Would you like to help me with that? Would you like to help me with some of this so I can get it done faster? Oh, they'll get quiet real quick. The minute they're judging you on, oh, you're doing too much, and you say, oh, could you come help me then so I don't have so much to do? They're like gone. So step seven is just realize that, and this is going to be a long-term play, realize you have to have boundaries. Step 7 is having boundaries. You have to learn to say no. Anyone admit that they're a recovering people pleaser in here? You have to have boundaries. I was shocked when I found this out, and I still don't always do a good job at it. But here's what I was shocked to find out, that the word no is actually a complete sentence. You actually don't have to explain to people why you're saying no to their request. That's a huge one. It's a huge one for avoiding overwhelm, is having boundaries and not saying yes to everything in the first place. I know you want them to be happy with you. I know you want them to love you, but think about it this way. If you're overcommitted and you can't get it done by their deadline, and saying yes is going to jeopardize you, and you're not going to be able to do it, they're not going to be happy with you anyway. They're actually going to be more upset with you if you said yes because you wanted to please them, but then you couldn't do it. They're going to say to you, why did you even say yes if you knew you didn't have the time? I could have asked someone else who did have the time, right? So plus, know this. I want you guys to know this. If they are someone who loves you and you love them, they don't want to see you stressed out and overwhelmed and having panic attacks and not able to sleep. And if they're the type of person who doesn't care that you're stressed out and overwhelmed, having anxiety and not sleeping because of their stuff they're putting on you, what kind of friend are they anyway? They're not. They're just using you, and they don't care about your well-being. So once you know your purpose, you've got your goals clearly spelled out, you know how to break them down, you've asked God for help, you're clear on what to do, you've got your deadlines, you're working on the things that are going to make the difference for you. You're keeping true to yourself. You're saying yes to your yeses, but you're setting your boundaries and you're saying no. You have to also recognize what is truly helping you towards your goals and what is just a decoy. Sometimes we think, oh, this will help me towards my goal, but it's really pulling you away from your goal. Like when I started out to be an actor, I was working in casting offices. I was doing makeup on sets. I was doing modeling jobs. I was doing all these things saying, well, somehow this will come around to the acting. And it didn't. It was just side notes. And we think, oh, but if I go work at this grocery store, I may, directors and producers need to shop. They may discover me. Yeah, I suppose it's possible, but it would be better if I was working on my acting craft, sending out my headshots. So what is it that is going to directly lead you to getting your goals done? And don't do the stuff all around the interior that might help. Make sure you're clear and heading in the right direction. You guys, this is serious business, getting rid of procrastination. So we just finished part 2. So join me again next week as I share the other 4 ways to the 4 things that stop us, that make us procrastinate, that stop us from our goals. And we're going to finish this series up next week as we talk about the other 4 items. And that's how to get over when you have an unpleasant task, how to get over discomfort in doing the thing. What if it's a timing thing and that's why you're procrastinating? Could it be a self-confidence issue? You know, that's a big one. Or is it your perfectionism? Do you tend to have a little OCD, like where you're trying to be perfect? We're going to cover all of those next week in the 8 ways to beat procrastination. Thank you for being here today. You guys are so generous with your time. I hope this helped. Leave a comment in the notes if this helped you, if you got some tools. And we'll see you again next week. Bye.